Okay, guys, good morning. I think we'll start now. It's already 12 minutes late. Good morning. Welcome to Oracle Code. Is it first time have you attended last year also? How many of you attended last year? Okay, I see a lot of new faces. Okay, thanks for coming to the session. So my name is Sai Penimuru. I work for DXC Technology as a chief technologist. But very important thing is I take care of all India Oracle Users Group. How many of you know Users Group in India? AIOUG? Yeah, I think you must know there is a Users Group community exists in India, and we do a lot of events and knowledge sharing session, and I think you can visit one of our booth in this side. The concept of community, right? I see a lot of, I'm not pointing, somebody is keeping, bag next to each other and make sure that her or his friend is sitting next to them. So today, sit with the new, strange people. And this is basically important for these type of events. Make friendship with others. This is more of networking event, right? Anyway, we learn, and I'm sure in 45 minutes you will not learn everything, right? So make sure that you make new connections. This is very important. And again, you will not get this stage again, right? You can't meet these people outside, right? Also, Oracle ACE Director, I'll cover in coming slides. That's again a community recognition. What happens, you may be having a blog, or maybe writing a technical article, or a book, right? Or a part of beta program, right? Many things. So if you start contributing to that type of activities, you'll be nominated as an Oracle ACE program. There are 3 tiers. I'll explain in coming slides. So this is all about me. You can use my Twitter handle if you have any questions after this session. So you can reach out to me using Sai_Penimuru. So again, just to cover my company, it's not my company, I work for DXC Technology. So 130,000 employees. It's basically a merger between CSC and HP Enterprise Services, right? And we serve 6,000 customers. It's basically end-to-end IT services company. This is a very important slide for many of you. So there are 3 tiers here: ACE Director, Oracle ACE, and ACE Associate. So if you started already blogging, right, so please nominate yourself for associate. And if you are doing beyond that, for example, you are helping people in forums, or you may be writing technical articles, so nominate yourself, or you can reach out to me, I can nominate. So this is a wonderful program. So what happens, it's not only like you are meeting here locally, right? So you can actually meet internationally, right? And this is a program will help you to a global reach. For example, I'm an ACE director. You submitted a paper, like for example, I submitted a paper somewhere in Norway, and your paper is selected, right? And Oracle will fund your travel and stay, okay? So use this program. That's just one advantage. And also Oracle Open World, they'll call a couple of days before. They'll provide a briefing session, what's coming in Open World, and they'll take a feedback. It's really a wonderful program. So if you're not started anything, start at least blogging. So blog is very important for many things, right? For example, it's not for external people, it's also for you. Today you have solved some problem. After 5 years, you may be hit with the same problem. So you want to refer back, right? So it's already there in the blog. And many things, but again, I want to cover my topic. But feel free to reach out to me in the AOIG booth, and we can discuss more. And this is, again, another program. It's Groundbreaker Ambassador. I'm also part of that. It is also not only databases. If you're actually working on any new technologies, DevOps, microservices, then you can actually apply for this program. Okay, today I want to keep it a very simple agenda. It's like a race, for me to complete everything in 40 minutes. Let's see how much we can cover. So how many of you are already working in microservices architecture? Excellent. And DevOps, anybody using DevOps? It's not tools. I'm talking about entire organization. Okay. And how many of you use Oracle Cloud? So we need to concentrate more on that subject. Okay. So my presentation is basically to cover for others, for experts also they're here. So my presentation is to cover what is microservices and DevOps. How do we bring these two into Oracle Developer Cloud Services? So again, there is another booth. There's a product manager, Abhi. You can talk to him for a deep dive session. He's also joining me at last 15 minutes to show a live demo. But that's really a wonderful tool. Anyway, I'll explain that in that time, yeah? Okay, so what is microservices architecture or microservices? Okay, it's very difficult to interact in such a big stage, so let me cover the definition. So microservices is a software architecture, right? It is composed of small independent processes communicating through language agnostic APIs. One of the best example, I was just standing for the last 15 minutes, right? You see all these people are microservices, right? It's not because it's a different team. Somebody is actually fixing the stage, somebody is fixing the LED screen, somebody is fixing the chairs. So all working independently, right? So that's where they can able to cover anything in few minutes, right? Maybe these guys have taken more time, but everything can be covered in few minutes. Think about the same example in your production application. You want to change something in your production. So what do you do, right? You need to fix quickly as possible, right? One of the example is in Flipkart, right? I don't want to take another example in this conference, but Flipkart, right? So Flipkart is giving iPhones certain discount, and the other competitor is giving more discount. So people actually go to that website. But Flipkart should realize and change that percentage very quickly. And it's production. It's not like a web page, right? How do they do it? So think on those lines. And I'm sure, including me, most of our time, we work on like ERP type of applications, monolithic, right? And in my days as a DBA, we apply only 2 patches in a whole year, right? It's not a challenge, and most of the time it fails, and it impacts other modules, right? But here, how do we actually get that quickly? Some of the examples I'll cover in coming slides. For example, Google actually changes around 8,000 changes per day in production. How it is possible, right? So we'll cover all those things. So fundamentally, what you need to understand is microservices in a software architecture. It's composed of small independent processes and communicating through language agnostic APIs. Okay, is it clear? I'm going to ask a lot of questions, yeah? And you can collect gifts from our booth. And still you're not clear about definition, and this is the best example I can say. How many of you, I think most of you guys are used, let me ask another question. How many are DBS here? Oh, really? Okay. Because most of the time, DBS are worried about their jobs, and they come to developer conference and see what exactly happening. So how many? I understand it's like all developers here, right? Yeah, this is actually happening. You know, there are many things people are changing after coming to autonomous database. DBS are more concentrate on architecture and big data, developer type of areas. Yeah. Okay, this is another example, right? So how many of you used Unix or Linux? You apply a command, ls, right? It lists down all the files. That particular command does only that particular command, right? And you basically, when you're actually writing a script, right, you include all these commands, and that become a shell script or Perl script or a script, right? So that's one other example. So think about that Perl script as an application, and each command is a microservices, right? Again, when you talk about microservices, we should also discuss about monolithic. Monolithic is something like it's built on technology layers. I always take an example as ERP or e-business, right? So you have one database, and you have application tier, middle tier, and front end, right? If something happens to database, your whole application will come down, right? If something happens to your middle tier, the whole application will come down. And most of the time, when you apply patches, if something went wrong, basically you applied a patch for a financial module, but it impacted the other module, right? It's very difficult, and it's very, I know the pain. If you, I think, no DBS here, but you should ask them, how much pain it is, and they have to roll back and bring the application back. and it's very difficult. So when it comes to microservices, you see all the services are independently created. There are a number of advantages. For example, when you take an example of, again, a Flipkart, and you selected all the items, and you are ready to pay using credit card, that time the financial module is down. But whatever you spend time, I'm sure we spend half an hour to select all the items, remove, delete, remove, add, and because our time, right? But while paying, you just spend maybe a few minutes to pay, right? So think about that same situation. Financial model is down, but you are not lost that whatever spend your time, right? Because it's all written in a microservices architecture, right? So, and people actually fix that particular financial model, and you can actually bring the application up and running. You never notice that it's all happening in the background. Okay, that's an example. Again, this is another slide where you can see that difference between monolithic and microservices. You can say it's a single monolithic app must deploy entire application. So whenever you install e-business suite, you have to install everything, right? The microservices is not like that. So whenever your business requires something, since it's all connected through APIs, right? So you can build a separate module and you can connect to the database and get the data. So organized around technology layers, that's what I was talking, database, application, middleware, and for the technology stack for entire application. And microservices is many smaller, minimal function microservices, right? Organized around business capabilities. So this is very important as a developer. So today, that particular customer expanded in particular business. Tomorrow, they're adapting. Maybe they acquired some different business. So you need to quickly get into your system, right? So that's where microservices is very helpful. This is one of the example. So normally, if you see like ERP or legacy type of applications, you see like something happens, small happens, you'll get a 500 internal error. That's all. Somebody needs to fix it. That's very, very. So if you come to microservices, you see that particular module is down. So still, you can see these three modules are up and running, and you can fix at the background, right? So most of the time, what happens in a real-time microservices, maybe some infrastructure problem. So you can quickly spin up a VM and attach to that particular service, right? So many examples. Again, for others, maybe if you're already working in microservices, maybe it's a fun story here. So there was a question, right? So Sai, like, okay, there's an application requirement from our business. Do I need to use a microservices or monolithic? So there is no standard process, right? You have to decide. Maybe it's like a one module. Maybe you can just build it, right? If it is, for example, your business is going to expand, so you have to think. So this is one of the example. Gives you a perspective how much granular you need to go, and also which is the best microservices. So you have to analyze something like this. So how many of you make breakfast here? I'm sure nobody, especially in India. You make breakfast? What type of breakfast? Omelette, yeah. That's an easy one. Okay, so let's take this example. So my topic, my application requirement is making a breakfast. So when you divide this one, you will see that layers of work, right? You see prepare ingredients, cook ingredients, serve ingredients. That's the next level. If you go to a little more deeper, you see cook bacon, cook eggs, toast bread, fry potatoes. If you go to next level, you see heat pan, pour mixture, right? So this is like a services, right? And if you go like that, you'll find around 60 services. That's what, just an approximate number. Maybe you can go up to 70 services or 80 services. So what is important here is, in this example, tell me which is actually the good for microservices. Sorry? Yeah? Having breakfast. But that's not there in this picture. Tell me which one is the best for doing a microservices architecture. Sorry? Give me one example, one box. Sorry? Toast bread. Any other example? Any other answer? Huh? Add pepper. Cook eggs. No, no, just give me one. Let's do it quickly because I'm in race now here. Huh? I think somebody is not showing this corner. Maybe I'll come this side. Heat pan. Why? Heating pan is important for many things, right? Add pepper. I may not use pepper. I may not use eggs. Heating pan is the best example for microservices because it's reused. Another important thing is when you're building a microservices, make sure that it's reusable for any other application, right? So that's the best example, which is not really, I think many have told many examples. A toast bread is not really a good microservices, right? So maybe I'm not eating, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't, or toasting bread is only applicable for toasting bread, right? Not other purposes. So just analyze, whenever you have any requirement, just analyze something like this. And what happens, the another challenge is, since you're building microservices like this, and this is a Netflix one, I think this is an old slide, it may be 1,000 plus now, you'll see something like this architecture, right? If you want to fix something here, it is very, very difficult, right? So here in even microservices is down until unless you automated the whole process. Otherwise, manually detecting something, it's very difficult. So what is important here is, four things. There are a number of things are important, but I'll see that these are the very important things. The monitoring plays very, very important role. You know, the Netflix, there's a service called Chaos Monkeys. How many of you know? Yeah, so what they do is, in production itself, that particular service will go and kill the production, one of the production service, and they will fix it. They will test the resilience of that particular application, right? So that way you have to work. Got it? So, and also rapid provisioning. So since, again, you can use a cloud type of environment because you need a speed to spin up the VMs and all, right? And also rapid application deployment. So whenever you do something, like for example, you are frequently installing Java, right? So make sure that you made it the automated way, write a script. Or if you are using database, I think database is not anymore a good example after coming to autonomous database. But whatever the application you are using frequently, make sure that you write it in a scripted way. So that's a application deployment and the DevOps culture, right? So I think a couple of slides on microservices. If you are new, I'm sure you got some at least understanding about microservices. Let's quickly jump into the DevOps. So this is a familiar picture, right? So normally, as a developer, we'll say, my job is to create an application, right? And throw it to the operations team. And it perfectly works in your development environment. And when it goes to production, it gives a lot of problem. And that time, the operations team will come back and say that, it's not working, right? Sorry. This is my 12 o'clock reminder. So what happens, this is what happens most of the companies. I'm sure that many companies, that's what I asked, how many of you actually implemented DevOps? So this is all not there in this particular, so this is traditional way of working. And again, this is what happens. You can see it's a blind handoffs. They don't actually see, they just throw it to the operations team. I really like this Gartner's definitions, like it's like a business-driven approach for delivering customer value using agile methods, collaboration, automation. So these are the three important pillars for any DevOps culture. So make sure that you actually follow these three things. You can actually, it's not easy. You can't develop a DevOps culture in a few days. It's like a whole change. It takes time. But these are the three important pillars for a DevOps culture. Again, this is an example if you're still not clear. So what happens, initially we have a waterfall method. It goes into a sequence, and agile methods where the development and testing come together. Then still you see that there is a big gap between operations team, but DevOps fills the entire. Again, one more important thing is DevOps means it's not only developers and operations, it's actually the whole organization, okay? Don't get confused with the name. So again, developer paid for add new features, and operations team to basically keep the system stable, but how do we bring both together, right? There are many activities in this particular DevOps activity. Again, this is, you can see this slide, it's a very important slide. And also how this particular activities are supported by different tools, right? Many people use the different tools for different organizations, but one important thing is what you need to understand, it's not just tools. That's why I asked the initial question, how many of you are already working in a DevOps culture? It's not tools, it's also beyond that, right? So you also need to adapt the culture, how you actually work. So one of the best example I always take is startup company. So normally what happens in any organization, we have DBA team, developer team, operations team, right? So once you're done, you just throw it to the other team. But in a startup company, think about you, yourself, and other guy, like developer, DBA, and operations guy. You do the same behavior? No, right? So whenever some problem happens, you actually go and sit with them and see. I'm sure you can't fix. You are not expert in all the areas. But what is important is understand what they're doing. Make sure that's why the developer cloud services gives a one perspective where different people actually with different roles, they can see everything in one single portal, right? That's very important. Again, this slide shows that this is from Gartner. This is not only tools, it's also people, technology, process, and culture, okay? So just to give an example, I'm sitting in an office. We have, we execute as projects, not on the large scales. Whenever we get a customer requirement, we are like a team of 8 members, not beyond that, and a Scrum Master, right? So what happens, so one person is a developer, the other person is DBA operations, so they are all multi-skilled people. So we don't really depend on or waiting for others to fix the problems. We sit to each other face to face. If any problem happens, that immediately will be fixed. And also the Scrum Master actually takes all the problems to the different Scrum Master. So there's a Scrums of Scrum. So they all meet at 10 o'clock and discuss. Again, I'm sure there are many things you can't fix with your team. So you basically, the Scrum Master's role is to go and talk to the other Scrum Master. There's a big board, whiteboard, they write what are the challenges today. And see the other Scrum Master say, I fixed in this my project, I'll help you, right? So that's way of the DevOps culture rotates. And this is also another important slide where it talks about the difference between the traditional way of working and the DevOps style. So you see a lot of things like the traditional ways is more of task focused, right? You have given some task you need to fix, but here is goal focused. Like all these requirements are coming from the business, and you are actually working on that particular business problem. And teamwork, dedicated roles, automated, manual, right? So many differences. I think it's self-readable. Again, we'll share this presentation, and even this presentation is 100+ slides. I'm not showing everything. There are so many hidden slides. Definitely, we'll share that slides, and you can go through the whole slide. And why do we do DevOps? This is an example, right? So you see that Google, again, this is a little older slide. So Google can do 5,500 changes per day. How it is possible? So there are some tools, even the developer cloud service is also coming into that. So what happens in a typical DevOps environment? So what happens, there are some automated tools from different companies. So developer will actually create a code, and he will do little testing with SonarQube or whatever so normally the another best practice is whenever you are a developer writing some code, you can do a minimum level of testing before sending to the testing team, right? So what happens, the developer creates a code, he will send it to testing team. So test manager will get an email because he has written all the automated scripts. He will get an email, and the email itself, he will say approve it, and it will go to the stage. The same thing happens to the release manager, it will go to the production. So that's why there is no gap. Otherwise, normally what happens, you have to provide the documentation. They don't understand what you've written. So there are a lot of communication gap, right? That's why you can bring so many changes into production using this particular culture. So again, programmer is the king, developer is the king because he can access all the layers before it is not possible. Whenever you want database, you need to depend on DBS. Again, this is recorded. DBA guys will maybe scolding me, but see, today you have access to, if you want a database access, normally you need to depend on DBA to get access. Now you can just write a single line. You can create a VM. You can create a database. Everything is possible with a single line as infrastructure as a code, right? So you can actually manage everything at the cloud, any cloud services. Again, there are a couple of things: heavy automation, cloud-like infrastructure, open source, open culture, agile methodology, and make sure that somebody actually presented in Oracle code. He said we need to automate. So don't make everything automated, right? So think on it. There isn't one project where we need to migrate one application to the cloud environment. This is a one-time shift, left and shift, but people are really busy in writing automation. Right? Don't do it like that. So it's only one time lift and shift, so do it manually. That's absolutely fine. But the same application, you want to do it multiple times, do it automated way, right? So it's a balance between culture and technology. So culture, are many things you can talk about. So respect others, like developers, operations team. So avoid blaming and discuss the things, right? And also make sure that if anybody wants to, like maybe your business wants to adapt a DevOps culture, tell them we have to go every week, parties for, with the whole team members. Make sure that they arrange a proper finance. Yeah, but this is very important. So we talk about a culture. When it comes to the technology, again, these are not limited, but these are important. Infrastructure as a code. So you have to follow infrastructure as a code. You don't require to depend on, again, operations team. You write a single code. How many of you how many of you created as a developer VMs with a command line? Yeah, so you can just create a VM, how much GB you want, how much storage you want, and your VM will be up and running, right? That's just one line of code in your development application, right? So again, this is like, before we have to move this code to a different environment, since it's a cloud, you just press a button, it will be deployed automatically in a development environment, then you can move it to test environment stage and production continuously, right? Since it's a cloud type of environment. Again, infrastructure as code, there are many open source tools available. I think it's one of the famous one is Ansible. Ansible Galaxy books, so you write and there's a Galaxy, so you can somebody actually written a code, you can reuse it, customize it according to your requirement. Shared version control, normally what happens in traditional environment, like development team may be following a different shared version control, and testing team use a different shared version control. But one of the important thing is how do we bring everything into one, all the teams use a shared one version control. So so that is possible in developer cloud services. We'll show you that demo, but ultimately use a shared version control, all team members. One step, build and deploy. So this is again possible with the Oracle Developer Cloud Services. You can use that particular cloud services. Only one challenge is you can't deploy into different cloud services, but you can use it and deploy it in Oracle Cloud. One thing is Oracle Developer Cloud Services is free, but only when you deploy that the charges starts, because that time that is using VM, right? So you can use it. Automated testing using a robot, right? As a developer, you do your minimal testing before sending to the testing team. Okay, now it comes to developer cloud services. I hope you understand microservices and DevOps now. So let's jump into how do we bring these two into Oracle Developer Cloud Services. So before giving to Abhi, I'll just explain. So these are the two important things. How do we bring the culture and the technology and using Oracle Cloud Services? And this is just an architecture, like you can use a developer cloud services, you can create tasks in agile method, and you can use Git, Maven, right? All these tools, and you can also integrate it with web hooks, and you can use any of this PaaS services using Oracle Developer Cloud Services. Again, we'll explain that in a demo. We have 15 minutes. You can just connect to your laptop, Abhi. Show me how it works. So Abhi is the product manager for Developer Cloud Services. So he'll show you some demo. HDMI. So as I mentioned, right, so Developer Cloud Services are free of cost. You can actually, if you're already signed up trial version, you can actually spin up Developer Cloud Services and you can start using it. And you see that demo, how you can actually start the project. So what is the challenge for us is like, if you want to use something, you need all the tools to be installed and integrated, right? So here what happens, the project itself, if you want to start a new project, the project itself takes only 2 minutes to start, and all the tools are integrated already, yeah? Over to Abhi, yeah. Can you switch on this podium mic, please?
Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to Oracle Code. My name is Abhinav Shroff. I am product manager for Oracle Developer Cloud Service. It comes from the same group which develops things like Jet, ADF, JDeveloper, Visual Builder as well. So I think Sai did a fairly good job in explaining what DevOps is all about, how Gartner defines it.
Fair job.
Sorry?
No, nothing.
It's a good job, okay. I think he just took it, okay.
Yeah.
He did a good job in explaining all of it, and also how Developer Cloud Service actually fits in. Couple of things which probably I would like to reiterate before I move on to the demo. One, Developer Cloud Service is a entitlement. It's a free instance. Any Oracle Cloud customer is entitled to have DevCS. We do not charge for the provision of Oracle Developer Cloud Service. You get 20 GB of storage free along with it. Only thing you get charged is for the builds. That is based on the compute. So the amount of compute time that you use, based on that, you will be charged for the compute. And you can have external storage. You can have additional storage from Oracle OCI storage as such for storing your build artifacts, etc. So yeah, that should excite you for the demo now. Okay, when we talk about DevCS, we talk about projects. So project is like a container in Developer Cloud. So if you see here, I have Docker and K8 as demo. This is the project name and project home for this project. So this becomes container for everything. So what do you have in DevCS? Sai mentioned kind of the life cycle, right? About the DevOps life cycle. So you can actually manage end-to-end everything of the life cycle, DevOps life cycle as such. So from planning to coding to building, deploying, releasing, documentation, all of it is covered within it. Now, if you go into the project home, you would see a couple of things. Project home this is the landing page for your project, and here it would be an activity feed. It is similar to, all of us use Facebook, right? Yes or no? Yeah, no. Okay. So we are used to activity feeds, what other people are doing. The same thing happens here. You see what other people in your project are doing. They won't be pushing any photographs here, but it will be all about events around your projects. So it would be around what build is happening, whether it failed, whether it went successful, who has pushed to Git repository, which Git repository, what is the any merge requests that have been filed, any issues that have been created or tasks that have been created, any changes to sprints, any new branches being created in any Git repository. So everybody knows what is happening within the project as a team. Then if you move to right-hand side here, you have repositories, so you can create any number of Git repositories. We do not have any control, or we do not limit you in creating number of users, nor number of repositories, nor number of projects. None of these limitations exist with Developer Cloud Service, though it is an entitlement as such. You also get to see the statistics around how many commits you have done, how many, okay, this is still on the Wi-Fi, okay, so it's a little slow.
So if you just explain that part, Abhi, that would be great.
Which one?
The menu. So
yeah, that 10 minutes is good enough.
Okay,
we
sure.
can do that. So statistics, and then you have teams where you can go ahead and actually map all the users as such, or the group members or the project members here. So people would have something like project owner or project member. They can, if they have project owner role, they have control over the entire project. They can delete repositories, etc. But otherwise, you become a contributor here. Okay. So they have to be on DevCS. They have to have access of DevCS to do so. Now moving on to what else do we give? Let's start with the planning phase. Before you start coding, you will be creating your epics, your tasks as such. So for this, we have an issues tab. You can go ahead and create issues here. So you can create issues here. This is an homegrown thing. It's to draw parallels with, it is something like Jira, but it's not Jira, okay? We also plan to support Jira sometime, but for now, this is the homegrown part that we have. It's being developed in Oracle, where you can create your issues, you create your backlog, and then you move on to something called boards, right? This is for your agile development, right? It is for your agile DevOps. So we support Scrum and Kanban now. So any agile dashboard that you create, you can select which one you want to go for. So you say if you create a new board here, say code Bangalore with Scrum. Yeah. So it would create that for you. It has a backlog itself. You can create a sprint within that dashboard, within that board. Say code sprint 1. Give story points. And you can map those issues and tasks that you create, or which is part of your backlog. You can just map those to the sprints that you are creating. Now, the other part would be, once you are done with the planning part, you'll start on coding, right? You'll start on coding. So there we have Git repositories. It will list down all the Git repositories that are part of the project. You can create these Git repositories, and these are accessible through any Git CLI. We have a tight integration of DevCS with, or a very comprehensive integration with IDEs like JDeveloper, Eclipse, and NetBeans. But any IDE, even like PyCharm, if you are using, and that has a CLI, Git CLI in place, you can go ahead and use this. Yeah, there's no restriction on that. Now, you have all the files that are part of your Git repositories will be listed here. You can browse those through those files. You can also edit these files as such using the edit button here. And you can create new branches, clone them. Yeah, whatever you can do with Git, you can do here. We also embed Git workflow in DevCS. So as a user, right, so as a team, you have like 5 developers working on it. Now, a task or an issue gets assigned to someone as we assign the backlog. So that person is going to create and branch out this code. Nobody is going to check in inside the master branch directly. They will branch out the code, and they will be able to do their work separate in an isolation, check in their code back into their own branch, the new branch that they have, and then they have to raise a merge request. This merge request is part of the Git workflow, where they will have to mention the source branch and the target branch, and then finally it goes for a code review. Once the code review process goes through, it's being approved, the branch will be merged into the master branch or the target branch that you have created. So yeah, this is part of the code. And also what you get is a Maven repository. Again, this is private to your project. This is where you can store all the artifacts, all the dependencies that you need. Example, if you are doing ADF development, or maybe any microservice development, as he mentioned, using any other framework, and you really need to have the jars for it. Instead of keeping it or pulling it from any other library, or if you have created your own custom jars, you can keep it as part of this Maven repository and then pull it in when you are trying to build it. Now, going on to builds. Moving on to builds. The code part is this is what we support from the code perspective. Builds, you can create build jobs here. These are build configurations. You can configure your build steps. And you can create a pipelines out of these build jobs. Example would be, let us take this build job, Node.js. Go to configure. You can configure the Git repository that you have listed as part of the DevCS project, and also the branch that you have, right? You can list that which branch you want to build. You can also configure it to trigger a build automatically when there is a change in this branch. You can configure build parameters, any information that needs to be set. You can also do environment settings here, copying artifacts, Sonar Cube integration, Oracle Maven repository, especially if you're doing SOA, CS, etc. And then you can configure steps. These are the steps that you configure. So if you're doing a Docker build, you can go ahead and configure Docker steps. These are out-of-the-box steps that we support. We support Ant, Worker, Maven, Gradle, Node.js, SQL CL, PSM CLI, OCI CLI for the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Docker, and also Oracle functions. Unix shell is like a generic thing. You can just go ahead and write your favorite shell scripts here. Sai kind of likes that, I believe.
So again, Abhi is going very detailed. You can talk to Abhi. He's in the booth. So I want to just cover a few more slides. I have only 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'll just complete one
sure.
deployment and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, once you are done with this, you can create the build pipeline out of your build jobs that you have, right? You can create any build pipeline. So this will help you run sequentially in an automated fashion. So you want to build and deploy on Kubernetes, build your Docker job, this one, and maybe Kubernetes deploy. And you can create a pipeline out of it. Finally, we have deployments and environments. Deployments is all about configurations to Oracle Cloud Services for deployments. And environments is for attaching any of the environments, mapping the Oracle Cloud environments. From the deployment perspective, we do not restrict deployment to even on-premise. You can do deployments to on-premise as well. So that's not restricted from DevCS part. If you guys want to see this Docker and Kubernetes running in detail, I have a session today at 5:15 in Junior Ballroom. Please join me for the session. I will be giving you an elaborate demo on how to build and deploy Docker and what it takes to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhi. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry for eating up your time.
No problem. So again, it's very difficult, as I mentioned, in 45 minutes, very difficult to cover everything. Let me quickly give you some material once you go back to home and you can refer these things. Yeah. So this is a URL. If you want, you can take notes on it. So this is a cloud.oracle.com/developer services. You'll find a lot of material here, and also the pricing you will find. It's a free, as Abhi mentioned, it's 20 GB. And also a lot of tutorial, right? So I think it's very difficult. I think Abhi took some 10 minutes. So there is all the steps, like whatever Abhi mentioned, right? So you have all the documents written in these tutorials, and it's a step-by-step process. You can actually practice at home. And this is a documentation. And there's a lot of blogs, Abhi, as well as there's another product manager, Shay. You can find these blogs, very useful. And also the forum, right? So this is, again, if you're not, if you're actually helping, this is a forum for not only for developer cloud services. There are many forums. If you're actually expert in different areas, you can start helping other people where people actually raise questions. So this is very particular about a developer forum. Again, the Slack group, you can join this group and you'll find the latest updates on developer cloud services. Yeah, it's not, it's only 53 seconds or 50 seconds. So again, so reach out to us. We are in that AI OG, and Abhi is also having a separate booth, and we can actually show more demos. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say here is, Oracle Developer Cloud Service is a free service. You can actually start practicing this. And also one good thing is you can see all this, whatever as I mentioned, right? How do we bring this DevOps culture? All the tools are integrated already, so you can start using that. Only your charge starts when you deploy into the Oracle Cloud. Otherwise, it's a free. Okay, guys, any questions, please find me at the next AOG booth. Thanks a lot.